Welcome, welcome. My name is Marcela. I am a holistic coach working with Tantra and therapeutic theater, and I am on a mission to bring more self awareness, love, and consciousness to everyone who's watching me. So, today we are going to talk about breakups and how to overcome this period, which can be one of the most challenging experiences that a human can go through. And I believe what I have to share today it's very transformative. So please stay tuned and share this material with anyone who needs to listen to that, because I gathered so much experience on this topic and talking with different clients from different backgrounds. We all go through the same questions, and it's so valuable to share all of them here. So let's go for it. So when we go through a breakup, it's a moment where everything that we knew until then is being challenged. The reality as we were building in our minds and in our hearts suddenly goes to a process of ending. So it's very difficult when suddenly all we knew is changing. And the experience we have is a high level of ego death, as I said other times. And nobody wants to ever go through this experience. That's why many times we even avoid to reach to this point. But let's suppose that the relationship we were in reached that point in which we have to break, and then we have to learn to break free. So a breakup can be seen, for me, the way that would benefit the most everyone who's listening here is to see a breakup as a great transformative opportunity that I would call as an initiation. So imagine a breakup as an initiation for a new version of you. And this can be day one of this new version that you are going to recreate. If you are watching me and you are going through this difficult period, listen to me. You are going to go through a rebirth. You just don't know yet. If it's just starting, be prepared, because you're going to go through challenging moments where you will face your own shadows. But after you go through your own shadows with faith, an open heart, and courage, this will deeply, deeply transform you. And this is what we are here for. So how can we navigate this transformation without losing ourselves? Actually, I would say it's completely necessary to lose ourselves in this process, because yourself is who you know until then. On that time, you will feel completely lost. And there is nothing bad about feeling completely lost in the middle of this process. The important thing is, how can you find yourself again? So the problem is not losing yourself, the problem is how to find yourself again, right? Let's put like that the question. So how can you find yourself again? Let's start for the basics, because we know that during a moment of a breakup, it can be so hurtful and deeply, deeply triggering that some people might even forget about themselves. Even me, I went through that. So simply not feeling the need to eat or to nurture yourself or even take care. So let's start for the basics. Start by coming back to your body, by nurturing your body, making sure that you are eating properly, that you are maintaining basic habits that will keep you at least alive because sometimes this can be such a difficult process that we completely forget about ourselves and we enter in a place of self-pity and deep pain that might provoke us to forget about these basic needs that we have. So make sure you are drinking enough water, make sure you are nurturing yourself properly, make sure as well that you have a support network around you that will help you and lift you up. So if you by that time you are not close to your family or friends, I would highly recommend that you look for support. For example, a community or support as in therapy groups that could help you at least socializing again and bonding, because connection is a vital part of our humanness. And when we lose a connection so important, such as someone we loved, now we need to make sure that we connect with ourselves mainly. But while this cannot happen, it is vital that you can connect with your friends, with your loved ones, whoever is surrounding you. Even if you have pets at this time, they can be the best friends as always, but mainly on these difficult moments, they are there to make us feel cared for, let's say like that. How not to think it's all your fault? I feel it's completely normal that we blame ourselves for the way things happened, but it's very important to acknowledge that in a relationship things are always coming from both sides. So if something happened in a certain way, we both, let's say, we both made that happen that way. So also acknowledge that one person can't lead only to the breakup, right? Always the other part has something that probably she's not acknowledging. So we would not have the necessity for a breakup if both people in the relationship would be willing to work on themselves and make this relationship work as two people in a relationship, in a conscious and aware relationship. So often when there is a breakup is because probably the shadow in this context of the relationship is way more visible than the light in that bond and connection. Because when everything starts, it's beautiful and we project the idealization on the other person. But after some time, this image that we projected, the potential, starts to fade away little by little. And then, if that image that faded is not enough for us to keep the bond, then either we will continue because we will be feeling the expectations that that bond will continue as beautiful as it started, or we still have hopes and wishes for the future. So it's very important that in the process of walking together with another person in your life, you make sure to be working on yourself and the other person as well, because self-work is a very important part for life in general, but mainly in a relationship. Because if two people are not making an effort to work on themselves, it's much likely that this relationship in a certain point will have a disconnection, right? So we often don't think that we need to work on relationships, and we take for granted that they will work. but actually a relationship requires so much self-work in order to be a healthy one. Otherwise, we will end up falling in patterns and dynamics that are unhealthy if we don't pay enough attention and take care of it as something sacred and special, right? So we we can easily agree that our health will be better if we make sports and if we have a healthy and balanced diet. Why would it be different, for example, for a relationship? So, for a relationship to be healthy and balanced, we also have to be very mindful of what is happening inside me and what is happening inside the other in order for us to be able to build a bond that will be fruitful, right? So to have a vision in common, to have um, goals, to build actually conscious and to have this deep wish of pouring love, and not only love but as well consciousness, because sometimes, unfortunately, love is not enough. When going through a breakup, it's very normal that because we are in so much pain, we will end up blaming our partner for that pain. And actually, this is also one of the main causes why we end up breaking up, right? Because many times people don't take responsibility for their pain. Of course, I'm not talking here about cases when there is a clear abuse or dynamic that is super unhealthy. I'm talking about a relationship where two people are trying to make it work and eventually it's not working. Because on relationships where we don't feel properly loved, nurtured, and where we don't have our needs met, I mean, needs that we all have as humans, such as to be seen, to be heard, to be loved, to be validated. We have so many needs as humans, and it's so important that a relationship is a safe space in which you can be you, right? So if in a relationship I can't be myself and I have to suppress part of who I am in order to be in this relationship, please ask yourselves if it's valid to keep this bond, right? So how to not hate or blame the other part? Simply by coming back to you and doing the self work of asking yourself, what is my part in here? What am I doing, or where am I not contributing for this dynamic to work? And how can I also empathize and put myself on the place of other? Of course, that's not easy, because it's way easier to blame the other and say, you should change, you should do this, you should do that, and then leave. But sometimes also it's okay. Sometimes we reached our limit. So if we tried to improve the situation, but the situation is not improving, and if we gave time and chance and still the pattern keeps repeating, maybe yes, it's time to move on. There is nothing wrong with moving on. And I feel anger towards our partner is going to be a complete natural emotion, because we need to create a version of them that does not serve us anymore in order for us to move on. And probably after we will have to forgive ourselves for doing that, because sometimes it's not easy at all to direct negativity, sadness, anger, or hate towards someone you once loved the most. But probably in the long run, all of this will change and will be eventually transmuted if you don't hold on to resentment. And if eventually you hold on to resentment, I would recommend you to let go. Let go of that, because there is nothing good that would come from resentment or negativity towards someone that eventually harmed you. If they did, this tells way more about them than about you. So it's also about not making it personal. Well, if you couldn't have a proper closure, which I would say it's very important for us to talk and to be conscious and to make a point in what this relationship brought to my reality and give a closure. It's so important. If you can't have this conversation, and I would say this is one of the most difficult things, we have to create our own closure. So your closure is the lack of reciprocity. Your closure is the lack of communication. Your closure is the lack of empathy on the other side. Because you deserve disclosure. You deserve to receive um, this. But if eventually you didn't, then it required another level of strength in order for you to move on in silence. And this can be deeply, deeply painful because sometimes closure happens on your own, and maybe the other party is ghosting you or simply doesn't want to talk or doesn't give you the reasons. Whatever reason they would try to give you wouldn't feel like enough, right? Because what we wished in the first place is maybe for that relationship to not end. So closures are definitely necessary, and sometimes we have to create them. And it's so necessary that we create them because then we will not open or reopen this door again in a different story. So if I create closure and I lock the door and I say, I'm not coming back here anymore, we are now directing ourselves towards a new beginning. Okay, so, and this new beginning hopefully will not lead to the same ending because every relationship that you cultivate will bring you a different level of self-awareness. So again, relationships are not here to make us happy, but to make us more conscious. And closure, it's like putting clarity into a shadow. Closure is to be very mindful of all the lessons that relationship brought you. So if you could not have a closure with your partner, I would do this closure with yourself through journaling, through going to therapy, through even talking in front of a camera about all your emotions and how you feel, and allow this to exist in order for you to move on. The worst thing we can do is to pretend everything is fine and try to go distract ourselves in a party or with any random experience in order to avoid feeling whatever discomfort this closure is bringing. It's such a difficult part, but I would say is one of the most important in a breakup. How to not project the fear into your next relationship. So, if you have been very heartbroken, much likely you will have certain fears around you when you meet eventually the next person in your life. So it's very important to accept this as a part of you and definitely a part that is there in order to serve you, but also to be very mindful that fear might block you in order to receive a new love. This is why it's so important to heal properly this wound. And a wound is not healed by putting a band-aid there and not allowing the air to enter. We need to have the wound open, and means that when we have the wound open, we have to feel everything that is meant to be felt, and whether it's anger, grief, sadness, everything that is meant to be felt, it's so important that we go through that without avoiding, because then there will nothing that will scare you again on this process. And eventually you will see that you went through all of that, and yet you made it, and yet you survived, and yet if you have courage, you can open yourself again for love. Of course, being more mindful, of course, being more guarded, of course, maybe slowly, and this will cause you to change pattern and choose better, hopefully. So, if you do the proper healing and if you take time by yourself, because I would say that to jump into another relationship while you are still healing, it's possible and it's more normal than we imagine. Eventually, if you jump into a relationship in order to heal yourself, this bond might simply dissolve once you are healed, because that person appeared in your reality to fulfill that mission of helping you heal. And it can be very painful for the other part to be the one that made this role, right? Um, because then once this bond ends, that person that was there fully to help you is the one now that is broken, and then we end up in a loop of unconscious relationships after the other. So it's so important to acknowledge that healing is your responsibility and is no one else's responsibility to heal yourself. So go tap into self work, go tap into your own self healing, into your own self love, and discover the power of being your own healer, and not jumping into the quickest relationship, because otherwise we are just going to be in a loop that doesn't help actually anybody and spreads a problem that goes globally of situationships and non-reciprocal feelings that can be very painful. So I would say, if you are doing self-work and therapy, acknowledge everything you are and be grateful for all the lessons you learned until then with the people that eventually passed through your life. But also, don't be afraid of starting something new as you are. You don't need to be perfectly healed in order to start something, because we are all coming from previous relationships and wounds. And probably the other side will also be dealing with their own problems. That's why it's so important to be honest. This is who I am and where I am at, and this is who you are and where you at, so we can meet on this level and do the work to heal together. But transparency is so important, other than pretending everything is fine and suddenly one day you realize, okay, I don't need you anymore, I'm leaving. And then that would be very selfish. And sometimes this happens due to a lack of self-awareness, simply because we end up starting a new relationship when we are not fully healed, and then when we feel that we don't need that relationship anymore, we just leave the boat like that. But this shows a lack of responsibility on the other side. How to open your heart again? Trusting. Trusting in yourself, mainly, that the lessons you need, the lessons your soul is searching, will be found in whatever next story you have. So, allowing yourself as well to live the beauty of loving again without any guilt or pressure on yourself. So, starting calmly with patience as well within your process, because it's not easy to open your heart, mainly after you broke up and it caused so much pain. But after you did a healing process and you seated with yourself and you felt all your emotions, you can understand that opening your heart again to the safe person, to the right person, of course, you're not going to open like that, because we need time and we need trust in order to do that. So, my recommendation is to go in your time, taking step by step self observation, self awareness, and also it's like a dance. So, is the other side dancing with me, or am I projecting my ideas and expecting the other to be on the same path as me? That's a pretty different story. So, you open your heart again by trusting in yourself that you're going to be able to hold yourself. It doesn't matter the outcome of this situation. It's absolutely possible to love again, and as humans, we by nature are beings that we need connection. So, love, I would say, and I would risk to say that, is a human condition. It's our nature. We cannot not love again. Uh, for as bad as it was, with a deep trust, deep inner work, and forgiveness to yourself and to everyone who hurt you, you can allow yourself to be free and love again. Because it's only when you are free that you can truly allow love to come into your reality. If you are still stuck in your past, if you are still stuck in experiences that did not work, and you are creating points of view that love cannot happen and love cannot exist, then this is what you are going to find in your reality. You cannot see anything in your reality without the lenses that would allow you to. So, if you believe love is a possible experience, and as a human I would say it is, then what is actually blocking you from feeling that? There is a very beautiful quote, I think it's by Hume. So, your task is not to seek for love, but to search within yourself all the barriers you have built against it and embrace them. Okay, so to put in short, in a few words, a breakup is one of the most transformative experiences a human might ever go through, and it can be so painful that people wish to never go through that again, and that's why it's so difficult to open your heart and to trust love again. But it's a deep journey that you will eventually take towards yourself, that will bring you home to yourself. And if you have enough courage to go through this process without avoiding it, this can be one of the most transformative experiences you will ever go through. My invitation is that whenever going through a breakup, you take time to self-observe and go back towards you and bring even more light and clarity to all the darkness that this process brings to the surface. Because actually, there is other quote that I love, which I don't know who said that. That is, once someone I loved gave me a box full of darkness, and it took me time to understand that that too was a gift. So there is always a gift in a situation like that, which probably you're not able to see now, but that will eventually take you towards where you need and where you are meant to be. So, for as painful as it is, the invitation here is Go through that process with faith and courage, and do not be afraid of opening yourself again. So we have this tendency of projecting that the person we were with was the love of our lives and we are never going to be able to fall in love again or love someone as much, and we stick to that idea, and for that we don't allow ourselves to live other story that might be even more beautiful, or who knows, even more healing. So it's true that past will never come back, but your future is plenty of possibilities that you just can't see now because you are such in a dark place. And that's the thing. In nature, nothing blooms all year. You need some darkness. You need to be planted. And when a seed is planted, she might think that she's dead, but she's actually just blooming, and she has been blooming all the time, although we couldn't see that, right? So it takes time. It takes time to get back to yourself again. So my recommendation here will be engage in activities that you never did before. Go do something that you always wanted but you never did. Maybe to travel to a new place, maybe to learn a new language, maybe to have a new hobby. It's the time to reinvent yourself in the version that you want. I started this video by saying that a breakup is an initiation. It's an initiation to a new version of you. It's an initiation to a rebirth that you are going to eventually go through. And rebirth means chaos. So it's about being in peace with the fact you will be in chaos. But that is so difficult for our mind, because in our minds we always need to have control over everything. And when you are going through a breakup, you're literally losing the control, because reality as you knew till then is being completely challenged to something new and to something that you don't know. So you chose the unknown, and now step with courage to that. But do not be afraid. Otherwise, you are going to be simply blocking. There is no other way if not through. So the process invites you to go through that, experiencing all the emotions that you are afraid of facing. But again, facing grief, facing anger, facing sadness, these are all proofs that the love you felt was real. It's simply the other face of love. But I would say, what is better? A life where you never felt love, or a life where you never felt anything? Because there is no option, right? Where there was so much love, there will be eventually so much grief. So allow yourself to embrace both sides of this spectrum, understanding that this is just taking you towards a more integral and complete version of your own being, with both light and darkness. There is a certain anxiety on overcoming this process and wanting to already feel good, because we are not used to deal with the fact that pain exists. Nobody wants to feel pain, and when we are in such pain, everything we want is to run. So of course we are going to face the flight or fight mode. So the thing is to come back to yourself and learn resources that will allow you to at least release whatever emotion is happening. So we know emotions are energy in motion. So my recommendation, go move this energy. So listen to yourself and what you feel now. So for example, I'm deeply sad, what am I going to do? Maybe I need comfort, I need to be inside my blanket, I need to sleep, I need to be inside my bed. I'm deeply angry, what do I need? I need to take action, I need to set boundaries, I need to allow the fire that is burning within me to be channeled towards somewhere. So if you engage in art, I would say transform or channel that into art. If you write, go journal. If you do sports, go do sports. So allow your emotions to be processed in all the ways you can in order to not be stuck on them, because it's vital that we move this energy that are the emotions, because then we are going to go through this process without even noticing we are going through this process. Is simply overcoming by living that and not ignoring completely, which is, I feel, a tendency we have normally to want to run away from our pain. Of course, it's a tendency that whenever you overcame a breakup, then you will eventually find a new relationship, and you will not trust that that can happen because we are so scared to open ourselves. But it's super important to respect what you are feeling and to not force yourself into engaging into something when you are not ready, because when you're ready, your body will show signs. If someone hugs you, you will hug back. If someone smiles at you, you will smile back. So this happens naturally, and there is no forcing the process. But one thing is, like, my mind is telling me I am blocked and I cannot trust anybody, and the other one is to listen to your body. So what my body is saying? Do you have a pull towards interacting with this other person, or you don't? Because if you don't, maybe, yes, listen to yourself and allow yourself as well to only interact with that person that honestly makes you feel safe and you believe it's something good enough for you to open yourself again. Because of course, after a breakup, it's very difficult to open. So give yourself time and be patient with your own process.